Hello everybody, it's GirlGotGame and welcome back to Gilded Shadows. Today we are going to start Jack Visser's route so that he can finally give me some peace. It's his turn to shine. He doesn't have to break into other people's routes or other people's games and be like, hey, I still want to be romanced over here, so cool beans for that guy. Anyway, the character traits I have picked for Jack is confident, stubborn, and emotional. And we're in the common route again because we have a choice that is suggested we take, which is the only one we haven't done yet with Rory. So let's join the crowd to see what's going on and maybe run into Jack and get a CG? That'd be pretty cool. Curiosity got the better of me and I decided to see what was going on, whether it was a performance, demonstration, or something else. I tried to avoid a few rowdy people at the fringes of the crowd as I wove my way into the group to see who was speaking. The voice was louder now, and I could make out the words over the sound of the murmuring crowd.
You've all been lied to. All of you. You sheep that blindly follow the piper. Listen to me. We must stop the madness.
What? I shuffled my way to the front to see a tall man in bedraggled clothes standing in the fountain. Water cascaded onto him, running in rivulets down his hair and shirt, though he didn't even seem to notice. Like everyone else, I gaped at him. Well, I'm going to try to keep you alive so we can hang out with you at the court later, Rory. He looked like he hadn't had a bath in a while. His clothes were ragged, dirty, and his eyes were strange. Mismatched, with one that was pale and watery, while the other almost glinted red in the afternoon light. My gut twinged in anxiety and pity. Drugs, maybe? It had been an ongoing issue lately, and I knew red eyes were a telltale sign of one of the more prominent street drugs that had found its way to Cisalis. Poor man.
You think you know the truth. You think you see it in the music that beckons you further to the dark. But this whole city is a lie! The lights, the sky above! The ones who know the real truth are among us, though.
He was hissing and spitting as he shouted. I stepped backward, thinking I didn't want to be gawking at this poor guy. If anything, I should be reporting it so he could get some help.
There are kings and queens among us! Ones who speak the truth in whispered hisses. Like snakes that rise up from the ashes to scream reality. They're calling. They're calling. Do you hear them?
Kings and queens? Like Espers? He sounded like he was a part of that weird Esper-obsessed cult thing. The court, or whatever they called it. Have we actually read the glossary for the court? The court is rumored on the dayside to be a strange cult with a near-fanatic worship of Espers. They are reported to have started in Delphine somewhere, though not much else is known about them. They are occasionally blamed for various crimes and incidents that no one else takes responsibility for. I do think we read about this when it was on the news during one of the routes. On the night side, they are known as a widespread group of Espers located in Chestershire. They are said to have some kind of ties with Crimson, and may even be a branch of that organization. Heh. This isn't widely known outside of that region, and some city-states or nations on the dayside have declared them a terrorist organization and have banned all activity to do with them. Let's go join them this time. The man threw his hands out to the side and splashed forward towards the edge of the fountain. A collective gasp went up as everyone in the front row scrambled back. I was jostled to one side, trying to keep from being knocked to the ground. The man stepped up onto the basin's ledge, sending a spray of water over. His eyes went wide, and he suddenly swept his hands straight down. It was as if every drop of water squeezed off his clothes and fell to the ground in a single sheet. Another gasp went up from the crowd as the puddle of water slowly spread towards us. Wait, he's an Esper? A flutter of anxiety spread through me. I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted away. Now, yesterday. This was not a part of my plan for a relaxed evening. I looked for an avenue of escape as the man started shouting again, but I was hemmed in and no one would let me back through the crowd.
You think you know what this world is about, but you're blinded by the chains over your eyes. I know. I know. The truth. though.
He dropped his voice to a hoarse whisper. I tried to push my way back through the crowd, already planning how I was going to contact the authorities when I was away.
I know the voice that speaks the truth! A voice in the wastes, in the waters, in the sky, and in the stars. I hear them inside my head.
I finally gave up trying to shove my way to the back of the crowd.
It's time to break out, to break away, to break everything. This city, that city, the false skies that imprison us.
I would just have to dial in and contact the authorities from here, even though I felt bad about doing it. But this wasn't about being an Esper or not, it was about public safety, and his personal safety. He needed help, clearly. I dialed quickly, but there was no response. Why is it taking so long to connect? I was so focused on the call that I didn't realize everything around me had gone really quiet. When I did look up, I froze, eyes wide. The man was directly in front of me, one foot still on the edge of the fountain and one on the ground, and he was looking right at me. A voice finally picked up on the other side, but my mind had gone completely blank even as they asked for my name and nature of the problem.
I know you. I know you. You're in my head now, too.
The fountain man was muttering, those strange eyes boring into me. Everyone else was staring in my direction as well. I tried to back away, stomach twisting itself in knots, but there was nowhere to go. I'm sorry. You're mistaking me.
You're mistaking me! You know me. You know me. I see the stars in your eyes. I am that merry wanderer of the night. You know me, right?
What now? That took a weird turn. He held a hand out to me, beckoning me closer, but I shook my head frantically and pressed back against the crowd. He hopped onto the fountain's edge again, spinning in a wide circle with his arms splayed outward. I'm very impressed that he's doing all this while... I mean, he's not soaking wet, but the fountain's probably wet, and he's just spinning around and not tripping and falling. I would be.
I know a bank where the wild thyme blows, where oxlips and the nodding violet grows, quite over-canopied with luscious woodbine, with sweet musk roses and with eglantine.
For one moment, I thought that maybe this really was a performance after all. A really, really strange performance. But the man's voice raised to a shriek and he suddenly lunged at me. I screamed as well, instinctively curling into a ball, as if that would save the day. My body went numb, and at the same moment there was a loud crack. The stone edge of the fountain broke away. Water flowed freely from the shattered basin. The man staggered and went down hard on the pavement, and it was like a shot had gone off and startled a herd of wild animals. There were screams, everyone started to flee. Someone shoved me to the ground at the same time I heard sirens. I scrambled to my feet, soaked, scared, confused. The man looked up at me, bleeding from his face, and I backed off, unsure if he'd jump at me again. A hand closed on my wrist and pulled me away. What? Yeah, he did come to our rescue this time. Let's go.
Come on!
What are you... Before I could say anything else, I was dragged away.
Wait!
The sirens were nearly on top of us. Either my call had been tracked or someone else had called in. Either way, I didn't have much time to think about it. I was stumbling to keep up with the stranger who had helped me to my feet. When I glanced back one last time, the fountain man was standing as well. Our eyes met, and for a long time I thought he was going to come after me. Instead, he bolted away impossibly fast as 2 cars of police officers drove up to the markers at the end of the pedestrian area. Thank you. The stranger, with a shock of blue hair, pulled me into a little side alley where he let me go to catch my breath. I doubled over, hands resting on my knees. What the heck?
Sorry about that. You looked like you needed a little help.
Well, I don't know that I needed to be dragged across the street into an alley.
I thought you might want a private spot to collect yourself. That seemed pretty scary back there.
I glanced towards the opening of the alley. Well, it hadn't been not scary, but I hope he gets some help.
Help?
Well, I mean, you know, I think he was an Esper, and maybe on drugs. And that had been a pretty nasty spill, though he hadn't seemed hurt when he'd run off.
He tried to attack you.
You don't know he was going to attack. Maybe he just wanted me to stand in the fountain with him.
I'm sure you'd look fetching completely soaked, but I'm not sure that's what he had in mind.
You're already starting early, eh? I'm just saying, he probably needs to be treated in a hospital, not hounded by SD officers. The Public Safety Department. We've definitely read about them before.
And I'm just saying, you're the one who nearly got attacked and you're worried about someone else?
I lifted my chin, shooting him an annoyed look. What's it to you? What's the problem? It's not like he hurt me, and it's a bit much to assume he was going to. There's enough paranoia to go around when it comes to unregistered Espers, especially now. But for all we know, he was just going to keep shouting without doing anything else. Everyone always assumes unregistered Espers are up to something nefarious. He looked like he needed a bath and a hot meal. I don't think he was out to hurt people. He held up his hands, laughing.
Okay. He was a harmless, drug-riddled, homeless Esper. Got it.
I didn't say he was harmless either. I just don't think it's fair to make assumptions about what he was going to do. Everyone has their own circumstances, you know?
Well, that's true. And in any case, it seems like you were saved by the fountain falling apart, huh?
I shifted my eyes awkwardly to the side. You noticed that, did you? Yeah, that.
A shame, since I was about to come to your rescue myself. And here my heroics are, completely foiled by crumbling infrastructure.
I don't know if I've seen that look on your face before, but I like it. I gave him an exasperated look. But I was glad he was going to assume that was crumbling infrastructure. Let's go with that. It's been a while since I did something like that.
Anyway, I'm Jack. Jack Visser.
I snapped back to reality when the man introduced himself.
I should probably apologize for dragging you away like that, but it seemed like the best thing to do at the time, especially with the public safety idiots descending on us. Are you sure you're alright?
Oh, I'm okay. Like I said, he didn't hurt me or anything. I was just a bit startled.
That's good at least. And I didn't get your name.
Oh, sorry. It's Morgan. Like I said, a bit startled. Now that I was less distracted by everything else, I realized there was something about the way he spoke. A faint accent. It wasn't all that noticeable at first, but now that I was paying attention, I had started to hear it. Delphine? That's what it sounded like to me. But he either hadn't lived there in a while, or he was trying to cover it up. I mean, it wasn't that strange. You just didn't meet people from there every day here in Sysalis. With relations between the countries so bad at the moment, it was pretty difficult for anyone to get a passport into Sysalis these days. I wonder if I should ask about it.
Everything okay there? You looked like you were having an inner monologue for like 5 minutes.
Oh! Sorry. Got a bit lost in thought. Analytical or cautious? I'm neither of these things. Gosh dang it. Well, I'm not getting any help from that. Oh, but I do have my cheat sheet. I should keep the observation about his accent to myself. Noted. Okay. Play with my cards a little close to the chest. Very much noted. I decided to keep that observation to myself. There was absolutely nothing wrong with someone from Delphine being in Sysalis, but with all the tensions these days, I knew there were some people that could be a little weird about it. Even if I actually wanted to travel there myself, even though I would have loved to have a conversation with him about Delphine, I didn't want to make him feel self-conscious or awkward either. Well, don't worry, girl, you're gonna get a chance. The accent was faint anyway, so I could be mistaken. Anyway, I should probably be getting home. After that little display, I'd definitely lost all motivation to be in public.
Is that where you were headed before you got roped into that crowd?
Dinner, actually. But I think I may just get takeout. Not really feeling the whole social engagement thing at the moment.
Want an escort home, then?
I glanced back at the opening of the alley. I had no idea if they'd caught that man. But it wasn't like I was really worried he might come after me, and I didn't know Jack either. I mean, it's my apartment. I can get back alone.
I didn't expect that you might get lost, Butterfly. Though I've known some people who are pretty bad with directions. I was more worried about your safety.
It's a solace, though.
Which is like any other city. Sometimes safe, sometimes not. I'm not going to force you. It was just an offer.
Weren't you heading somewhere else, too?
Nowhere important.
I chewed my lip uncertainly. I didn't want him to go out of his way, but company would be kinda nice. I'm that way. I indicated the general direction of my flat.
Even better. That's the direction I was heading anyway.
Convenient. Are you sure you don't mind? Jack laughed and took my arm, steering me in the direction I pointed.
You always worry this much about imposing on people? Don't get me wrong. It's cute, but it must be pretty exhausting.
Not always. It's just that I'm not in the habit of having strangers walk me home.
I assume you're also not in the habit of being yelled at by fountain-dwelling, Shakespeare-reciting weirdos.
You recognize it as Shakespeare as well, huh? Oh, you recognize that quote. That face. I can't with that face. It's so funny. Jack gave me an appreciative look. Oh, that's what that is.
I'm more surprised you did. Ancient Earth literature isn't exactly most people's forte.
Well, I've taken a lot of history courses, and I like learning about Earth. Earth, the third planet of a rather ordinary yellow star. I shook a finger at the air, mimicking one of my professors as I spoke. The planet that birthed our people and sheltered our kind for millions of years. The mother world of us all. Now millions of light years away, but forever engraved into our genetic code and history. Jack laughed at my little performance. The tension from the previous incident began to drain away as we walked together.
They really teach it that way.
Some of them do. But I actually do find it pretty fascinating. I mean, it's a part of our history. It's nice to learn about it. What about you? Why do you recognize Shakespeare? Also studying history? Jack smirked and shook his head.
Do I look like a student to you?
I didn't want to assume.
So I don't look like a student?
I shrugged. He didn't, to be totally honest. He had the air of someone who had already been out in the world experiencing things. Not locked away, desperately burying their head in a book so they could try to achieve the next tier or pass the next exam.
I just know some dork who's always got a book glued to his face when he's not otherwise occupied. Somehow he managed to trick me into reading here and there.
How did we never have a conversation with Kesa about Shakespeare? I feel cheated somehow. Sounds like a good friend. Though I worry a little if you actually have to be tricked into reading. It's a fairly basic skill, you know.
Oh, I don't mind reading. I just have other skills I prefer to focus on.
I worry when your face is that face and you say that. Anyway, so your friend likes to read? Jack seemed highly amused that I ignored yet another obvious attempt to flirt. So it was intentional. Okay, great, love it.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy. Though I think a lot of people might disagree.
Interpersonal relationships aren't really built on the opinions of other people. If he's a good guy to you, that's all that matters.
Learn that in one of your classes too.
I lifted my chin, giving him a look of mock offense. Learned it on my own, thank you very much. He just laughed again. It was kind of nice, having an interaction that had nothing to do with classes or studying, and that wasn't just a family member. It felt like it had been a while. We walked quietly for a while, and soon my building was a little ways away, so I stopped and gave Jack a grateful smile. Thank you for walking me back. I appreciate it.
No problem. I was coming this way anyhow. Already said so.
So...
Goodbye, then.
looks like.
Well, maybe I'll see you around again sometime.
I hope so. Goodbyes were awkward usually, but Jack didn't drag things out. He grinned and turned around, heading back the way we'd come. Hey! I thought you just said you were walking this way anyhow! He lied! Great. This is a great way to start. You have no reason to trust this man. Perfect. I love it. And we got a CG. Let's go.
I lied.
He smirked before striding away without giving me the chance to respond. This is gonna be fun. I watched him for a moment before I finally went back to my flat. What a strange evening. And now I still needed to figure out dinner. Wonderful. Oh, this should be a new text message session because we haven't done that choice with the fountain before. So, let's read it.
Paladin, where are you? Standing by. Target located. Can confirm telekinesis. Was Merlin right? Probably. What next? Contact Ivory Tower. Merlin will make the call. All right, understood. Paladin. Other factions are moving in. I think I saw Jackal. Are you sure? I'm not sure, damn it! Understood. We'll advise soon.
And communication. We're good. Let's, Right, the way the fountain broke like that. Skip. Cross-reference Shakespeare and Merry Wanderer of the Night. Boop. The image was of the broken fountain basin, mostly drained of water. Several officers stood around it, talking to one another and members of the crowd. The anchor began to discuss the young woman nearly assaulted in front of the stunned onlookers, and heat crept into my face as they showed footage of the man leaping at a blurred-out and censored figure I knew to be myself. Just the image of myself I wanted to wake up to. At least they edited out my body. Even so. Alright. I set the glass down and pulled up a visual of any messages received while I slept, and sure enough, there were two from the safety department. One was a response to my report, or rather a notification to let me know I sent it. Interesting, it still won't let me skip, okay. As if I hadn't been present when I, sent it. The other was a notification identifying me as a witness and requesting me to come at my earliest convenience to answer some questions in person. There was no convenient time for this, but I should probably get it over with as soon as I could. Looks like that'll be how I spend my afternoon. Hopefully, they wouldn't need to ask too much. There was footage of everything that happened. What more could I add? Besides the whole part where I was pretty sure I destroyed public property with my mind. On accident. Because I wasn't going to be bringing that up anytime soon. I closed the interface and frowned at the news report, catching the tail end. Weirdly, they didn't discuss the fact of the man in the fountain being an Esper. An unregistered Esper would normally have been a bigger deal. Maybe it was for the best, though. It's not as if his behavior was due to being an Esper, but that would have been the inevitable slant, even though he'd clearly been on something. Usually, they'd have taken every chance to sensationalize the danger of unregistered Espers. As it was, they were pinning it all on drug use and suggesting it was evidence of another small crime ring in the city related to Crimson. Then again, they like to pin nearly everything on Crimson. If you believe the news networks, every crime in Delphine had its roots in Crimson, and the organization had its claws pretty deep in New Albion as well. Never thought I'd be grateful to Crimson for being so horrible they took attention off other issues. Because the media was keeping Espers out of the story, it hopefully was an indication the safety department was thinking along similar lines. I didn't want to have to lie to anyone. I was awful at it anyway. Okay, music changed, so that's a good sign. I didn't want to reveal that I was probably the one that broke the fountain. I had managed to keep that little fact swept under the rug for so long. Far too long to be outed now. Okay, and then we got dressed, hanging out with you guys. Doesn't matter what I do here. Doesn't look like it. So, I could either hang out or just be... I think it's this one I've done before when I was... Do I want to run into Kesa? Or be like, I don't know, Kesa from Adam. You know what? Let's run into Kesa. Sure, why not? That could be interesting. Hi, Kesa. I'm gonna apologize to you. It's okay. And then we're going to... Have we done this before? Definitely fought. But I don't know. No, we've fleed before. I don't think we've fought yet. Yeah, okay. Cranky kidnapper. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different. Interesting.
I understand that you're afraid, but we don't have time to sit down to a little coffee while we explain. You have to come with us.
Who are... Tall kidnapper, right.
Caleb, the car is here. Ari, help me with her. We'll explain things later. Right now, we don't have time for it. We're not the only ones after you.
You're... Wait, what? The one pulled Caleb... Pulled Caleb? The one called Caleb, I can't read, pulled me away from the wall, holding my arm tightly. People were after me? But why? I stumbled after Caleb as he directed me to the nearby car. I wasn't a terribly willing participant in this little situation, but Caleb was far stronger than I was. Okay, now we're going on a ride. I could be stubborn. I actually haven't done this option yet. Maybe now's the time. I am supposed to be stubborn. I reached for the flask, half intending to take it, and half intending to slap it out of his hand. Rinsing my mouth was more important than being defiant, but my hand betrayed me. I slapped it away, sending it spinning across the floor. Oops. Not that I felt too guilty about it. It was kind of satisfying, to be honest. There was silence. A split second later, a pair of hands grasped me by the arms and hauled me to my feet. I didn't have time to go limp the way I had with Ari. I came face to face with Caleb. Nausea washed over me, and I thought for a moment that I'd vomit on him. That could have been interesting. Unfortunately, this time my stomach managed to control itself.
I think she's well enough to handle a second jump. Caleb. Ari, we don't have time to wait. If she can act like that, she can handle it.
I ripped myself out of his arms and took a wobbly step away. No. No, I was not doing that again, if not because I had no intention of being kidnapped, then because I wasn't going to endure my insides turning themselves upside down again. What do you people even want with me? Ari stepped to my side again and set a hand on my shoulder. Are we back, by the way? Yes, we are. Okay, cool. Okay, hold on. Can I back up to a certain point? Because there's something... Yes. Perfect. Okay, if you watched me play Kesa, you know that I kept hinting at, like, I have a theory for the whole thing, and I never found the time to actually talk about my theory. But it involves Jack, so I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about it when I go through the beginning of this again, because we're going to run into this character. So, I have a theory. Now, when we did Kesa's route, we found out that Kesa's brother, Deimos, had died, except that we got to see a picture of him. And he looks suspiciously like another character in this game that we haven't run into yet, but that is on the main menu. And his name is Lance. They look suspiciously alike, except that Lance has white hair, and not just plain black hair anymore. And we found out that Deimos was taken by a group called Nyx when we played Case's Route. Interestingly enough, we also had a chat with Jack about his sister, Sylvia? It's either Sylvia or Sylvia. I think it's Sylvia. Anyway, Jack's sister. We had the bombshell dropped on us that she was Endgame's queen. The one that died like 10 years ago. Nyx was also involved in that. Which I thought was an interesting coincidence. That Nyx is involved with like two people's siblings. And was blamed for one of the siblings' deaths. Which I know is false because he's dateable. So that got me thinking about another character that we've had a sprite for but haven't had a conversation with all that much yet. So my theory is, what if this is Jack's sister? That was also, her death was also faked, and she's working for Nyx. And as a brief side note, she also has this mask that Morgan seemed to have in Ari's bad ending, so I wonder if there's a connection there too. Plus the fact, like, we're assuming she's a knight because she's teleporting, but queens can do all kinds of fancy stuff. There's just something about her that looks like Jack's face to me. Like, I could buy the two of them being related, and the fact that one dead sibling is actually still alive, and we've had this sprite for a while. That's my theory. I just wanted to put that out there into the universe. I could be completely wrong, but I've been thinking about it ever since I had that chat with Jack. Like, what if... Well, first I was like, maybe Jack's sister isn't actually dead, but then I think we were talking to... Gosh, I can't even remember. The old guy who was, like, the main bad guy of Case's Route. We got, like, all the details on Nyx and how it was involved with Deimos's death, but also involved with Sylvia's death, and I'm like, that's an interesting connection. So maybe Nyx takes your sibling, dyes their hair white, and then whatever. I don't know what happens after that. And then they disown you and watch you from the shadows. But anyway, I'm just like, wouldn't it be wild if this was Jack's sister? There you go. That's my theory. I just wanted to get that out there in case it's like talked about at all during this route or revealed in a future route. So there you go. I've said my piece. Anyway, the fountain thing? Couldn't have been that. Neither Caleb nor Ari had even been around for that. Unless... Jack? Were they working with him? There shouldn't have been a way to know I caused the fountain thing. But if they'd already been watching me at that point, then they had some other reason to suspect I was an Esper? But that couldn't be it. A broken fountain was not queen-level telekinesis. There's no way Jack, or anyone else, would have seen that and immediately thought I was a queen. Well, I mean, Jack's sister was a queen. He would know what to look for. And that brought me back to the previous point. They should have had no reason to be watching me in the first place. Besides, Jack had a Delphine accent, while Caleb and Ari did not. That could mean nothing. I like that she's theorizing now while I just finished theorizing. Like, okay, they could be connected, except that he's got an accent, they don't have an accent, so... But at a very surface level, it could show they had nothing to do with each other. Ugh, I didn't know. How could I come up with any solid answers based on the limited information I had? That's why we theorize, girl. I couldn't. Sure you can. So, for now, getting away from this madness was my priority. With knights who could pop in and out of shadows, or wormholes, or queens, and who even knows what other abilities, I wouldn't feel safe until I was far, far away from all these people. And even then, maybe not. Okay, we can skip again. Now, for this boy... None of these things are my traits, so I'm just going to pick options that I know will keep this boy safe. I'm gonna reason with you. I'm emotional anyway. Okay, you stay alive. Perfect. Now we're here. So, let's get Jack to help us. Yeah, flee, definitely. Okay, I just want to go ahead a little bit. Okay. I held up a hand, letting out a hiss as the lights temporarily blinded me. I whirled around and tried to flail my way back to the alley because there was no reason for anyone else to be in this place. My knees gave out and I went sprawling again. This time, I just couldn't get up, even as I heard the car come to a stop behind me and someone get out. This is it. It's over. There were rapid footsteps coming towards me. I tried to lift myself up on arms that were not cooperating at all.
Holy shit! You okay?
Someone tried to help me back to a sitting position. I let out a strangled cry, trying to push them away.
Whoa, hold on! Hey, it's me!
That accent! I squinted up at the person crouching over me. Jack? This is so neat now because she recognizes him. This is great.
You look like hell.
What are you doing here?
Well, I can't really pretend I'm here for any reason other than to find you. But I swear, I just want to help you.
My chin quivered, and I tried to bite back the tears. How can I believe you? Do you know what I've been through today? I wasn't sure why it was that phrase that finally broke me, but I let out a sob, one hand on his chest to keep him at bay and the other wiping at my eyes as the tears started flowing.
Hey, come on now.
He drew me closer, wrapping his arms around me, and I wanted so much to push him away and run, because I couldn't trust him. I knew I couldn't. But I still clung to him and cried. He just has that vibe. Like, ah.
Shit.
I dissolved into a shaking mess, and he just patted my back and let me cry into his chest. He's a good guy. He's like, we gotta get out of here. But priorities, gotta calm down the acid first. After a few moments, he spoke again.
Morgan, I'm sorry, but we have to get out of here. You're being tracked.
I know that.
You know where it is?
I shook my head, trying to speak around the ache in my throat. I don't think it's close. He pulled away and looked down at me with a serious look on his face.
But if we don't leave soon, it won't be long before it finds us. Or someone else does.
He stood up and offered me his hand. Trust Jack, even though he be kinda shady. Don't trust him, he's way too shady. Well, interestingly enough, this isn't actually an important choice for Jack. So I'm just gonna go with my emotional trait. That Jack was here was kinda shady, and even he admitted he was looking for me. I wasn't stupid enough to believe some stranger I met by chance the night before had somehow gone on a vigilante rescue mission. He was another person after me for being a queen ranked. But he hadn't yanked me off the street and shoved me in a car. He hadn't shot at me. Yet. He hadn't attacked me in a dark hall. And, if I was being practical, he had a car. And I desperately needed to get away from this place. I hesitated a split second, then reached for his hand, pulling myself to my feet. I wasn't sure my legs wouldn't give out, but even as I wobbled, Jack caught me.
You're in pretty bad shape, aren't you?
His voice was soft, the tone gentle and comforting enough to make me cry again. He must have taken that as a hidden message. He scooped me into his arms, which hurt because my entire body did. But also was a relief because I didn't think I could walk anymore. Did this guy just start with a bridal carry? Because I cannot.
Let's get the hell out of here before that thing finds us. When we're safe, I'll give you some of the answers I know you want.
Need.
What was that, butterfly?
You'll give me the answers I need. He smiled faintly as he carried me to his vehicle and placed me inside, just like a child.
Yes, I'll give you the answers you need.
I feel terrible.
You look it, too. Seems like they put you through hell.
And then some. He hopped in the front and slammed the door. For one moment, that panicky sense of danger spiked, and I nearly bolted upright to figure out where that thing was. But then we were speeding away, and the feeling faded as we left the deserted sector behind.